Hey guys, welcome back to the Raw Food Podcast. This is episode 25 with your hosts JJ and Raw Skye. Hey JJ.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, awesome. Good to be here again on this beautiful evening. And just excited for this topic. I think it's so important.
It definitely is. So the topic for this week is why your brain sabotages your raw vegan journey. And if you don't know, JJ and I both completely changed our life with raw foods. I saved my life after 60 surgeries and 8 major organs removed, psychiatric issues, whole lot of host of issues. And JJ had chronic pain, allergies, and this all changed when she went raw. So do you want to start by talking about what happens when your brain starts to sabotage the journey you want to go on?
Yes, I think it's probably a multifactorial type thing that happens. But for the most part, I feel like somewhere in our lives, we're taught that we are only supposed to feel this good, or to feel normal we have to be like everyone else, and we shouldn't brag, we shouldn't make talk good about ourselves, don't seem to be better than others, and different things like that. And then it also comes from just a lot of different programming, I feel like, as a kid, as to what is normal. And I think somewhere along the line in our culture, we got to a point where it was more accepting, both for ourselves and to our friends and family, that we put things in us that doesn't serve us, whether it be thoughts or talking bad about ourselves, or putting food in that doesn't serve us. And it got to be like you can fit in better if you're doing something wrong, like. So in some ways, I think when we start our raw vegan diet, it's so different, and we start to feel good, and we almost have this limiting belief, like, I don't deserve this. And I feel like it all stems back to self-love. I know I'm taking it full circle with that we deserve to feel our best, that we deserve to eat healthy. Like when we're kids in school, if we're too respectful to the teacher, we might be called the teacher's pet. If we are too smart, as they say, and take school seriously, you're called a nerd. So now you're eating really healthy, you're being good to yourself, and all of a sudden people are rolling their eyes, not understanding what you're doing, and you're starting to feel out of your comfort zone. And even though your comfort zone didn't serve you, our brain tries to bring us back in homeostasis, just like any other organ. And I feel like it sabotages us in a way that once we understand it, we can then break that cycle. But until then, it makes us think we want to go back to comfort food, our old lifestyle, so that our friends and family accept us again better, and these types of things.
Some very good points that you made there. And what I think you have to understand about the brain is it's like when you understand how it works, you are really playing a game, not against it, but with it. Okay.
Yes.
And what you have to understand is if you put yourself in suffering and misery, your brain's job's whole purpose is to get you out of that, because that equals death. It doesn't complicate. It's not like, oh, maybe, I might get better. Maybe. It equals death. Suffering, pain, disease equals death. So your brain's job is, if you're miserable, if you hate it, if you don't like it, it will, we call it sabotage. It'll back end through the subconscious and find a way out of that, right? So I focus doing this so much on joy, pleasure, happiness, and self-love, because I know my weakness. My weakness is that subconscious that I can't tap into. Like, it's like an iceberg, right? We're only conscious of that tiny bit above the surface. And when you start to work out, you don't want to like fight your brain. You want to work with all the knowledge that you've already learned. And you spoke on how when you go raw, you're actually saying no to a lot of pain, but you're socially isolating. The only way you will survive that social isolation is if the output of what you're doing is greater than the suffering you had, but you still had joy. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
you had found a way to construct your first your life up to now, by even though the food made you sick, the lack of exercise made you sick, the sitting in movies, the going to bars and clubs and drinking made you sick, is you feel whole to some degree because you're not socially isolated. You are part of a construct in society. So when you jump over to raw foods, I didn't spend as much time trying to make my body suffer. Strip it back. You can't have this. You're only allowed this. I was like, okay, I've got to love this. And on that, I just wanted to briefly touch with what you are up against. So, social isolation has profound effects on the brain and nervous system and physical health. Humans are wired for connection. So, when meaningful social construct is missing, the body often interprets this as a form of stress or threat. This can increase depression, anxiety, brain fog, cognitive decline, heightened threat response, and lower emotional regulation. There's other things that it can do. But how these are the things you're up against. And if you put yourself into a raw lifestyle that you don't like, plus you add all of that in, like, how do you, of course, the brain isn't sabotaging, it's doing its job. You've got to feel dopamine, serotonin, and social regulation and fulfillment. So we've done podcasts on connecting with us, do retreats, buy books, watch YouTube, get out in nature, do all the joy you can, because the output is worth it. But at the start, this is the part where these are the reasons. And when you're aware of it, I really think it's key. And you do this as well, JJ, is what do we love about this lifestyle? Not, I have to do this, I have to eat this, not this again. Find your joy.
Yes, find the joy, find the abundance of what you're moving towards. We say it almost every week. I always come back to that abundance word, because it's about what can I give myself today instead of what do I have to eat or what can't I have in this diet. And I was thinking of a little technique that I use that actually it's I use AET, but it would be cooler if it's spelled eat, but it's still all three letters of it. But I use this in so many ways. Either sometimes it might be I've worked in customer service, it might be for myself, for that self-love. But when you start to feel and now that you know this, you can identify one of these beliefs when you're trying to run back the other way, or when you're feeling like, you know what, I want to get back in my comfort zone, and you can't understand why, when you might be having a day where you're maybe struggling to keep that joy. And you can say to yourself, first of all, the A is acknowledge, not to ignore it, not to keep pushing through, not to keep feeling bad, because as you just read, all of those things, emotional health is very important, just like physical health. And I think when we're in this lifestyle for a while, we find that this is like a whole, a picture, a big picture of our body. But our brain is exactly like all the other organs, just like our heart would never work against us. It wants to keep pumping. It wants to bring that blood through the body, because it's to keep us alive. Our brain is meant to protect us. And sometimes we can misconstrue those signals and think that it's doing something against us, when it's really trying to help us. It's trying to help us protect ourselves or feel comfort zone or feel normal. But we've got the wrong idea over this programming of what that should be. It should be to feel healthy, to feel good, to feel joy. So that acknowledging, oh, I'm feeling this way, and then empathizing with yourself and your brain, saying, I understand why you're doing this. Thank you for helping me. Dawn says this all the time, J&J video. I see her in the chat to use that self-talk when it starts telling you those stories that are lies, that you feel like you shouldn't be thinking, like, I want to, I'm feeling fear, or I don't, feel accepted, or whatever it might be. And then the T is basically tell yourself that new, your new story. Tell yourself the transformation you want to have. This is something I'm doing for myself. I want to feel good. And I feel like if you can take yourself through that cycle, you don't ignore the feeling, but you also don't sit in it and dwell on it. You move forward, say, this is where I'm trying to go with my health. I know why I'm doing this, and I'm going to make a good choice for my body and for myself mentally. And I love what you said about joining like the retreats and the communities, and just having online friends that that get it is
Mm.
so important, because we're in a world that we feel isolated when we eat healthy or we do good things for ourselves. So everybody needs a place to celebrate those wins, and also to say, hey, I'm feeling this way, how do I get through this?
Yes, some more good points there. So someone said, what are we talking about? So people coming in, we are just talking about how the brain sabotages your raw vegan journey, but in general, what your brain's communicating to you when you feel like it sabotages any good you start to do for yourself. Like, what are you actually up against when you change your life into good habits? Because that's, I think, something that, well, that's the biggest struggle, right? Is people go back because the voices, the urges, the way that they've moved into a new, better choice for themselves has gone. And I think one of the biggest things that people do is extremes. We live in this society where it's like a quick hit of dopamine seems optimal. We've had pizza, we've had wine, now we've got reels of social media, right? One of the most rewarding things is when you start to do raw foods and you start to do exercise and you start to do sunlight, is your gains that come from slow progress are so rewarding in a way that are so unique to me and hopefully to each person. And I want to say that the value I get from being the tortoise, not the hare, is the key to my success in getting my health back. Is I was my whole life, I'm like, okay, there's the answer. Okay, I've got to do raw foods. I'm only going to eat apples. Like,
Yeah,
that is like asking for self-sabotagement, right? If that's the word, sabotagement.
I
It's
like
like
it. It is now.
you have to, the other thing is you have to teach your brain how not to dopamine jump. Like, it's like you really, and sitting in that is supposed to feel uncomfortable because rewiring the brain will do that. Okay. You don't want to be in a torturous zone. But
Yeah.
I always think as I'm doing these things, like I'm running an extra kilometer or I'm up an extra bit earlier to do a little bit more work, is you're doing what other people don't. And this is why it feels uncomfortable. If everybody, this is my mindset, if everybody in the world could do it, this would be normal. But it's not. So it is supposed to feel hard. But don't wake up and do an ice bath, journaling, run, do all of this. Like, that's asking for your brain to say, this is so painful, I can't do this. That is like a normal response for your brain. You start making little tweaks. And then once you tweak and you realize you can run an extra kilometer, you're like, well, hey, maybe I could do 2. And you can only know that you can do 2 because you added on the extra kilometer. So that the lessons that you're about to learn are from the baby steps. And I cannot preach that loud enough that everything I did may look in social media where, if you're just joining, I thought about this when I ended up in New York, doing the restaurants and podcasting, is like, the work to get to there was never planning to get to New York. That just happens the more I do my baby steps, right? You
Yes.
don't think of the big picture. You send that out to the universe. All you do is keep working on yourself and only take on small things that people around you don't notice, that you think isn't noticeable, in that time. But when you're doing it, it feels hard. It's just the construct of society that people don't notice, and our brains don't notice more of a variance than over 10% anyway. But if you stay in that 10% margin, you don't sabotage, you don't go into pain, you have lessons to learn.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's one of the things that went from working with people in this and from having to understand on my own, that we are, as you mentioned, we're an all or nothing type society. Like, you're either right, you're wrong. There's no middle ground. And I think looking at this, one of the best things you can do to not sabotage or think you're sabotaging is not allow it to be sabotaged, in the sense that, I mean, figuring it out is the the purpose of it, instead of like, I'm all raw, I'm not raw, I'm eating what I'm supposed to, I'm eating what I'm not supposed to. What if it was just, I'm going to try to eat raw and be my healthiest self as much as I possibly can, slowly, and I'm going to figure this out. One day it might not work out, but the next day I'm going to I'm going to use that as feedback, as learning. Like, in the same way we might figure out something else that we're trying to do, like maybe we're decorating our house and we put the certain kind of, do people still put wallpaper up? I don't know, but we put wallpaper up and
Maybe.
we realize it doesn't look right, or you don't like it and you take it down and put something else up. Like, this is the way that raw vegan has worked for me over the years. After that first initial really easy phase that I had when I was that dopamine motivation, I'm all raw, and I was really strict. And then as things started to happen, I started to have to figure it out for myself, when those feelings took over, when I started self-sabotaging. Then it's like, okay, what can I do to make myself really enjoy this again? And I really, for me, it was, and I've mentioned this before, after about a year, I started learning too much. I started learning from too many people and different groups, and somebody would make me feel like I'm doing it wrong. And then when I went back and started trusting myself again, went back to that original thing that worked for me, which for me, it was simplification. It
Mm.
was just thinking in terms of, I need to eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And for me, how I felt best with those ratios. And it really made things so much easier than trying to, let me just turn this off. My work computer is making those noises. I apologize if you can hear it. Um, Oh, well, I don't like that. Then my light went off. No, I'm in the dark.
I was
JK.
about to
On the other
say.
side. I forgot I have my lights hooked into it, so I don't want to look like the secret raw vegan over here. But yeah, it really made a big difference to have to learn and see what works and what doesn't, instead of thinking I had to have it all figured out at once, because that's how we can start that all or nothing thinking, and that's how we keep starting over. But you're not really starting over when you're raw, and this is your goal, and this is what you want. When you want to be healthy, you're just figuring it out. And I think if we
Mm.
reframe it like that, it makes such a difference.
Yeah, and also it's not I can't do it. It's what did I learn from going back to foods that I didn't want to touch again. Don't let your brain ever tell you, because you might have done 2 weeks raw. That's amazing. Most people in the world cannot do 2 days. You've done that. You've gone back. What have you learned about yourself? And I think another important thing when it comes to changing your life and kicking goals is Olympians. They don't just wake up and go, I'm going to go to the Olympics in 2 weeks. You hear their stories, and most of them have been runners since they were a child. Then they ran at school, and they ran on their weekends, and they ran after school, and then it evolves. And we are that. If you want to hit the goal, get there it is. You've got to be in what you talked about in nobody wants to be in the middle ground. And
Mm-hmm.
I've said this before about the 10%. So your brain will not register things or care or put emotion or stress towards something unless there's a more than 10% variance. And I'll give people an example of this. So just say you're about to buy some tires, and at one shop they're $510.
Oh, I love
Okay.
this.
Yeah. And then they go to the next shop. They don't buy them. They go to the next shop and they're $513. Okay. Or $514 or something. A person, let's say 513, a person will not go back to the other shop. They'll just pay the extra $2 in the new shop, right? They'll be like, they won't even think about it. There's no stress. There's no emotion attached. It's not thought about again. They buy the tires. Then let's say they go to the next shop and they find a chocolate bar that is $2.50 or $3. I think I gave it a $3 variance. $3.50. Sorry, it's 50 cents, right? And they go to the next shop and it's $3.50. Someone will get really worked up, really emotional, feel things in their body and mind. They'll be going, how come this shop is charging me $3 extra? But they paid $3 extra for the tires.
Yeah.
It's just the human brain will not register. When you start learning these little tools, you'll realize it is worth staying in mid ground. All the little 10%, or you can go up to 15, some 20, you're going to push yourself, right? You can find out your sensitivity. But what if, and I don't expect people just to go raw, I've never said that. But what if when I hang around my nieces, every time I see them, they're munching on veggies and fruit? I don't expect them to always do it, but then when they go home, they'll ask their mum for more. Are they eating it all day? No, that's enough, and then the body learns how it feels around these things. But if you can know these things about your brain, it's like it is called being in the mid ground. You don't anything that causes you distress, whether it's a diet and exercise, you've overrun, you're so puffed out, you feel like you're dying, or you've pushed yourself with your diet so much you hate it. Is what do you think your brain is going to do? That suffering and pain equals death in your brain.
Help you out.
It's got to. It's got to get you out of it. It's normal. Yeah. It's doing its job. So mid ground. We want to be mid to get and kick those goals.
Definitely. I love that. And I think we got to really give our work with it. And that's why I think for me, when I work with people, like you said, we're going to do something we can get our head around and move towards this goal of being raw. Because if you're you can just say, I'm going to drink green juice for 30 days. And some people get really disciplined and they do that. But what happens after that, as we've mentioned? I would rather someone do that 3 months in, after they're feeling good about themselves and they've figured out a way to make this lifestyle sustainable. I'd rather them have, and that's why I always say fruit and salad, because it's very simple. It's something you've had a salad before. You're just making a bigger one that's maybe got a little more, sustenance in it. And we've all had fruit before. So that's where we're coming from. Sometimes you say the word raw vegan and it turns into this. I mean, our brain, when it's something we don't know, and anything, if you think about you've ever learned, whether it be a new job, you're out of your comfort zone, whether you're building muscle, like you said, to a certain degree, just that little, 10, 15 minute workout. If you start with that, you start to feel the next day, your arm feels like you can feel something happened, but you're not like you went for a 5-mile run and you just can't even get up off the ground, because then your body's not going to want to do that again. Doing these little things, like you said, adding 1 or 2 things to your life, maybe taking something away or reducing it, I usually eat 3 big standard American diet meals a day, but I'm going to have fruit for breakfast and see if I can do it for lunch, and I'll still have dinner. But then, the next night I might cut my dinner in half and have a salad, and then try to eat just a little bit of cooked. And it's like these things, it's okay, but we don't like that because our mind kind of wants a challenge sometimes. But let that be the challenge, to move slowly, because if you move too quickly, like you said, we're gonna self-sabotage, as we call it, but it's just our brain returning to that comfort zone. And if we make raw our new comfort zone, we'll feel strange when we eat cooked food, if in fact it ever comes up.
Yes. And I just want to talk a little bit about what I've learned, because I did study psychology, about perception. And because I always talk about love and looking for the positivity and looking in what you're doing for the good, because in that view that you're looking at, if you start looking for good, as in, well, I didn't like all the salad, but these are the foods I ate, instead of going, I don't like that, I don't like this, I don't like that. And then what happens is you move to the next view. And I don't like that, I don't like this, and you wonder why you continue to sabotage. And I'll give you an example of this. So in first year psych, they put up this experiment where they say, we want you, being first year psych students, to look at this screen, and people are going to pass a basketball around, okay? And you need to count how many times they're passed it. So we're all high achievers there, so we're zoned in, okay? We're they're passing the ball, okay? And the background of this is kind of white, black, very simple. No bright colors, they're just passing the ball. And at the end, we're all I think it was 7. I don't know how good my memory seems to be getting better. It was 7. Some people said 6, 7, and we're all there's that joke, 6, 7 or whatever. Right. All the kids.
I think somebody wrote it in the chat earlier, didn't they? Yeah, Mr. Bark something.
Yeah, so the 6, whatever it was, we're all having this discussion, and the guy said, did anybody see the black bear that ran through the screen? And everybody said, what are you talking about? There's no black bear. Who spotted the black bear? What was the number on the black bear's jersey or something? Because it was black and a white, the background. Lo and behold, he replayed it. We were so focused on the passing of the ball, we did not see a black bear mascot walk through the middle, stop, dance, and walk off.
Amazing.
None of us saw these perception things are
I
just
wonder how
absolutely
many
incredible.
bears run through my room a day. Just kidding. That I'm missing because I'm focused on my computer, right?
But it
But that's,
shows,
we were
yeah,
saying that. Remember, we were talking one week about how you can do 20 days of completely eating wonderful, raw, feeling good, and you have this one thing that happens, whether it was by mistake or not. Like, I've seen that happen with a lot of raw vegans. They're like, well, I found out this wasn't completely raw, this one spice in my dressing or whatever, or I had some lentils or something, and all of a sudden they're like, feeling bad about themselves. I'm like, that's great, that was you staying healthy another day and not going completely back to your old diet. But we tend to focus so much on that one thing we did wrong instead
yes.
of all the stuff we did good, and that's, in this case, that would be the basketballs you're focusing on, where what you focused on. If you focus on everything that goes wrong, you'll start seeing more things in that algorithm.
Well, that's right. But also, what if the bear is that the joy and the happiness and the
I
things we
like
should
that.
be focused on, and we're not seeing it because we're so
Mhm.
like, we can't combine that. I can't do raw. Nobody does raw. My family doesn't do raw. I don't like blueberries. That's
It's
all
not
passing of the ball.
sustainable, I get told
Yeah,
all the
there's a
time.
million passing the balls. But what if you're that like anomaly, like most of us raw vegans are, and you see the bear who's
Yeah.
doing his little dance, and you're like, that's the happiness, that's the salad, right? But you've never seen it. And I feel like most of my life, I never saw the bear, right?
Yeah.
Is the true happiness is not what people tell us to look at. People are like, no, you've got to do it this way. No, you can't do it this way. You're too tall, you're too short, your butt's too big, all these things are the passing of the ball. But what if, and I think in the class, and first year psych is like 200 students per lecture, I think one person saw the bear.
I just realized that we both have psychology degree. No wonder we always come back to talking about the mindset, right? Like, it's so
Yeah.
interesting. Like, I didn't think of it in the realm ever of health until I like married these two things, and I'm like, I love that analogy you just used. I think I want to say that all the time. Be like, wait a minute, am I getting negative? I'm not seeing the bear.
Yeah, we have to like when, and this is training. Like I feel like I trained myself really well in being like so real with what never worked with diets. And I would always default back to what I learned in society, and that is we kind of think nothing works, so you just half-ass it. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to now eat raw, so I have to find the good. You've got no choice, Skye. If you don't eat this way, you seem to go back to bed. So I was like, what are you willing to do? And I'm like, okay, I like avocado, I like mango, I like chili, I like lime, I like greens. Start there. That's all you have to do. Don't worry about all the things you don't really like, that don't feel so good. Is if that you eat that and you get up, that's enough. And then you start to go, I do like cruciferous. I like making noodles from veggies. But that didn't come on day one. That
Right.
comes when, as you sit more around the direction you're going. And it's like the Olympian, right? Is he only starts kicking more goals because from a very young age or in his teens, he's trained excessively. It's not like now he wakes up and he's like, I'm just going to win a gold medal. It's all the little, for him, it'd be mundane. You'd get to that stage as you build up, and I kind of think that we're Olympians, to be fair. Like we
Mm-hmm.
are doing what like 99.99999% of the world cannot do. So you
Mm-hmm.
can never think that changing would be easy, but how are you going to do that? That's the
I
question, right?
I love it. And if we keep, making ourselves feel bad and thinking we're going from in and out of it, then you're never really allowing yourself that process. I made an analogy about going to the gym. For some reason, when it's our body or muscles, we kind of understand it better. Over time, you
Mhm.
build muscles. Like, you might not work out every single day, but over time, you're figuring out, you're just consistently trying to work out more, or you're trying to take your 10,000 steps, or you know what I mean? Like, you're adding to your life.
Mm.
And I think when we go raw, we have to remember to add. And like, I loved what you just said, find those things you like. Because I mean, in real life, in our previous life, we probably ate like only the same things anyway. I mean, really, like when I was eating the standard American diet, I had about 4 or 5 favorite meals. And then if I went out, I had maybe 2 or 3 at certain spots, or my favorite fast food meals. It's the same. Like we don't have to have 150 things that we like right off the, you can think about, like you said, think of 5 things you really like and start
Mm,
trying those. And then you're adding on, and then you try something new
yeah,
and you're like, no, I don't like that. But just because you don't like one thing doesn't mean
don't
you
throw
can't
it
do
out.
this, or I'm just, and really like try, you ever, like when you're first maybe in like something new, right? Like look at it like that, how everything you can find joy in it. That's what you have to do with the food, because you're finally aligned, whether you want to know it or not. I feel like when I'm eating something that I know isn't serving me, there's an internal struggle there. And it's like finally everything aligned. When I started eating raw food, I started feeling my body feel better. I started feeling my mind clear up. So I wanted to keep doing that. And that's what we're talking about, making it our own new comfort zone and figuring it out. The process is really where the joy comes from.
It is. And what I want to ask people out there is about a comment I hear a lot. And that is when I'm like talking about how I healed myself with raw foods and grounding and sleep and lots of love and uh, living my best life, really. But people go, I don't have time to do that. And my question is, because I had to ask myself this, what do I actually think the point of life is? Like, what do these people think the point of life is? Do you think it's to get up, slam back a coffee, and not stop and be so miserable? The only way you're functioning is a whole lot of medications. Like, what if we each of us learnt, and I'm not saying you have to go raw, but you started to learn to put good food in? Because I feel like most of us never learnt the foundation. School never taught us the most important thing, and that is
You're right.
self-care and self-love. Every time I let go of self-care and self-love, my life seems to go backwards and downhill no matter which step I take. If I don't care for me first, I can't work, I can't be an aunt, I can't connect with people, I end back in bed. And so I really had to ask myself the question is, we seem to be taught at school that stuffing our brain full of information from external sources of people we've never met, never known, half of them are now dead. Is this the point of life? And I was like, I will never say to myself, I don't have time for these things. And I trust in the universe enough, because the more I look after myself, the healthier I am to work, and to work in an area which I feel is more joy. But if I start to self-sabotage, I start to notice I hate the decisions I've made. I hate the word hate, but it makes me feel creepy. It makes me feel gross. But it's like, it really is like, and you don't have to, you're not supposed to wake up instantly. And well, you are. Some people do. I feel like I did, but you can't just change your life instantly. But what if you start to learn the basics of why we're here? And that is to eat, to sleep, to get some sunlight, to get some grounding, to have good connections. It's not what we're taught. And that's a hard lesson I had to learn.
Definitely. And I was thinking about, to keep moving forward and keep understanding that you're doing something that a lot of people don't do. And like you said, that really hit me there when you were talking about finding that the good in something, and we have to find the good in ourselves and compliment ourselves and celebrate ourselves, what we're doing right and not always what we're doing wrong, because we are taught to show up for other people, and that is amazing. I love showing up for other people, but what you said is, if you're not feeling your best, you can't show up right for others. So it's like a win-win. You're doing it for yourself. You're also doing it so you can be that person that you want to be for others. You're doing it for your body because, the point is to live and feel good, in our most basic animalistic nature, or whatever we want to say. That's what every creature is really meant to do.
Um,
I was just saying that's what every creature is
sorry.
meant to do. They're trying to fight for life, they're trying to eat, they're trying to do these things. And that's why I think animals in a sense put what they're supposed to eat inside of them, or they just instinctively know it, not what they're supposed to, like they're reading a little macro book. But you know what I'm saying? Like we just
Yeah.
instinctively know what to, like what serves us. And yet I think we get self, what do you call it? Like you said, subconscious confusion from everything we've been taught. We can't even listen to ourselves.
Well, I will also say when I don't have enough raw food in my body, and by saying that, these are still raw, but they're not like fresh living food is the raw food diet. Like the condiments that you use are to help you eat raw, or like, you know, tamari, apple cider vinegar, dehydrated food. And that's all amazing too. But if I have too much of that, like that's predominantly my diet, is my mindset, whether it's like because you could call it lower vibration, but also because when you used to eat dense food, am I tapping into old pathways? I don't know what happens. But the self-talk, the way I feel about myself, the way I project onto others is not good. And I've spoken before in another podcast about how for me, raw food is the key to unlocking the best in myself and any choice I make in life. And that's why it's huge part of my life, not just for it healed me and that I want to bounce back and forth, but to feel my best every day, make the best decisions. When I do show up for another person, the information, the knowledge, what I give them is I feel bettering the planet. I feel when I wasn't looking after myself and just, you know, very, very medicated, and that's how I got up. Anything I passed on was probably in my mind self-destructing the planet. You know,
Yes.
now the more I care for myself, and I'm not saying raw food is the way for everybody to do this. What I'm saying is if you're not sitting in a whole bubble of self-love, anything you pass on in some nature is not, it's only the best of where you're at. But if you're like self-love, loving what you eat, happy, joyful, exercise, slept well, around good people, and someone asks you for advice, even with no prior experience, you're going to pass on joy,
Good
happiness,
advice.
and good advice. That's it. Like the way you look after yourself really will determine. And millionaires and billionaires say, never work as hard at a job as you do on yourself.
That is
Okay,
so
so think about that. They say some guy, some million, I've seen many of them talk about, was working in a post office box. He didn't work to get where he is now. He didn't, this is where he started at a post place. A post, he was not delivering, but he was sorting mail type thing. He goes, and then he got higher jobs. I don't know how exactly he got where he is, but he said, I never would work harder at work. I would come home and run. I would read. I would, whatever. He'd work on himself, do self-help courses, whatever he chose to do was to work on him, because the stronger, the better he was, the more people listened, the more his decisions impacted people around him. So his boss would want to elevate him. Like
yes.
slugging it through, like not having your lunch break and slamming back coffee and then having an injury and taking time off work and then needing medication to get through work. Anything you pass on is not going to be as good as the person who's gone home not drinking, done the exercise, done the good food, and turned up glowing. You know, because then those people who aren't looking after themselves go, oh, they're just lucky. The luck is in what the person does when you don't see them.
Yes, I love that. And just, you know, for everyone out there watching, especially if you're a beginner to this, you know, regardless of what you've been told or what you've been telling yourself, you really truly do deserve that happiness. You deserve to feel good. And I think that's what so the passion in both of us too, and many other, you know, influencers even, and they we feel that we've figured something out, and it becomes a passion to really share with people how to get there and how to make it work. And I think that's one of the things that is the holdup with so many people, because you hear it all the time. I did so good. I felt my best. Like I'll get it in my comments sometimes. I did 30 days of raw and I felt better than I've ever felt. So what is it that's turning people back the other way? And I think it's these like limiting beliefs, self-love, and understanding our brain, why it's trying to go back to comfort zone. And I think when we can understand that and work with it, that's when we start to realize that we do deserve it, and we're okay, we can be
Mm.
different and love ourselves, even if it makes ourselves a little bit uncomfortable at first.
Yeah, do you know the main thing I feel why people don't succeed on this raw journey? I think it's the only reason people don't succeed is they copy exactly somebody. And
Yeah.
that's not what anybody who you're watching. So think of all the influencers, all the people out there, no matter how they're living their lifestyle. Nobody, even raw vegans, whole food, plant-based raw vegans, high raw, we are not living the same, yet we're all feeling very successful and happy. And I share so that you can be inspired and drawn to parts of it. I feel like many people sign up for programs because their mindset is still that the answer is not inside them, that somebody else has that. And there's people out there that will feed on that because they make money. Okay. And it's not that I think these people are necessarily bad. It's just long term, in 10 years' time, are these people doing these programs still moving forward? I'm not asking somebody to ever change their life in 30 days. You've got an entire lifetime ahead. What happens after that?
Yeah.
You know, and so would those 30 days, unless you're very sick and you have to do something, I'm talking stage 3 and 4 in a disease and you have to do
Right.
something very serious, very different, right? Most people, your biggest challenge is not trying to do juice for 30 days or 40 days or whatever it is, or 6 months of fruit. It's what are you doing for the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years of your life? Maybe 30 days can be spent making small changes, and you're teaching yourself to keep
Yes.
elevating so that when I speak to you in 10 years' time, it was, oh, yeah, I did one of those cleanses, I think. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear the person, however they've gone, is
Hmm.
still learnt to work on themselves. And the biggest challenge in that is harder to do than committing to 30 days or 40 days on one thing. It really is, because you can get a lot of dopamine from the end product, like from
Hmm.
the I'm going to get a flat stomach, but it'll all come back in just 30 days if you don't keep going.
We see
And
that
people,
so often in these types of things, in diet, especially because we don't figure out how to get a new comfort zone. We go back to the
yes.
one we were in.
So
I agree.
sitting in the mundane, you're sitting in what is called like an achievement zone, right, for the brain.
Success
So the
is
brain
boring
thinks that,
sometimes.
well, yeah, and people, even when they go negative, can find comfort in that. So even
Mhm.
if things are hard, they're like, I'm getting through this, I'm going to do this. But that really will have a pushback. And that comes, I've experienced it when you come off. And was raw vegan for 3 years when I came off juicing. I've never experienced cravings and addiction tendencies so hard. And I had 3 years of training behind me. So
Mhm.
how people do that, I don't know. And it is possible. But then the people even that are able to do that, I've noticed have found their own way with raw. And that is what I want for people, is to not sabotage, is start making better choices for you that you can do.
Absolutely. I think that's a big thing. Like, start adding things that you can enjoy to your life. And that way you're giving your brain the easiest time not to run the other way in the beginning when it is uncomfortable. Make it as comfortable as possible to start making those changes so that you're not thinking you have to do this deprivation or this, big restrictive diet that you're not going to like, and you're just thinking about when is it going to be over. You want to think about how can I keep
Yes.
doing this more and more, and how can I stay with this because I love this, I'm enjoying it, and stick with it until you figure some things out. If you don't think of it as a start and stop, or like pass, and oh, I didn't do it, it really starts to become something you can. And it's almost hard to retrain your brain to do that if you've been in and out of this lifestyle for a while. I've noticed from, working with people, they'll say, I messed up, something like that. It's like, no, you didn't mess up. You're still at this, you're still working out what works for you. Maybe you realize that you can't skip having that first meal. That's what, made you too hungry and you made a bad choice for dinner. Maybe you realize you should have lunch. Like, these are little things we figure out along the way. They're not mess ups, they're learning experiences, I think. And when we reframe it like that, it really just makes you want to keep doing other good things, because when you celebrate the good, you want to do more of that. Your brain is going to want to do more of that. And I think that's a big key to really starting to work with our body, both like physically and with our mental body.
100%. We really do. I think it's a whole big picture, and I always refer back to, I guess, some golden lessons I've learned from some long-term raw vegans like Chris Kendall. I was very aware that when I changed my life had turned to beyond crap. I'd been homeless, disconnected from my family. I'd been sick for 32 years, 60 surgeries, all these massive problems, FND, psychiatric problems now, lost my hair, feel like I'd lost my life, right? Is to talk yourself mentally out of that felt impossible, because without knowing, you can talk yourself back into things. That's the thing with the brain, right? Is you think you're talking yourself into a good thing, but a lot of the times it's taking you a back route and out of what you want to do. And he says this, and I think I knew this, it's just he said it so well, is when everything is dark and depressing and dense and miserable and you cannot move from the sludge and the darkness, he goes, if you put packets of light inside your body, which is raw food, just pure, it's pure densified sunlight, right? He goes, that's why you change. When not, you can't move, and even your thoughts defer back to just more sabotage. You just, because you're so dense. He goes, it has to make a change. And that, I think, is the principle of why the raw foods work so well for me. Is there was so much darkness, it was impossible to even see the crack of light. The only crack of light was that dense sunlight packages, right? And that's why for those struggling, it really is, even when I say this, even when you get it wrong with raw foods, you're still getting it right. It will, those cells, those living cells that have an energy, which until you've been full of raw food for a minimum of 3 days to a week, minimum, okay, you will not understand how you start to vibrate with the planet. Like those cells of plants, you become, they're living, not dried, not like fresh cells. And your decisions, your mindset, you start to clear. And that helps me, not like in a drug type sense, but this step by step. I love that song. Bit by bit, brick by brick. You just
We're even
take it
getting
step
entertainment
by
here.
step. You do a bit of free singing, karaoke on a Tuesday or Monday, depending where you are.
See, I finally stopped saying Monday. That way we can be right in
We
both
we can be both. We can have a
compliments.
step in the future and a step back. Doesn't a person always have 1 foot forward and 1 foot back?
That's
So we
right.
can.
That was one step forward, something step back.
We just keep bursting out in song.
I love it. There are
So,
certain words we say that make it that, that make you just want to come into a song, like you are so beautiful,
you know,
you are so, that type of thing. All of a sudden I'll just start going into song. What did we watch the other day? Wedding Singer, and there is a couple of songs that always get stuck in my head from that movie. It's like all the 80s songs.
oh, I love it. What I learned, my sister and I always burst out in song. A word will trigger a song, like we'll be mid-sentence. And other people probably do it, but I'm very aware because my brother-in-law is like, you and Holly both do that. Like a word will be said and we're like, this is Holly. Anyway, what was I going to say about the songs? I know. I was getting ready for this podcast in a real rush. As you know, we started this podcast late today. And what I noticed, because I love this as well, when you start clearing all the fog out of your head and you have more electrical energy, you can be more perceptive of what's going on in the brain. And you instead of it controlling you, you're just watching it. And I'm getting some makeup and just putting some makeup on and a bit of bronzer. And then I couldn't find a little tub of this makeup. And as I'm looking for it, I start to sing in my own head. And I realize what I'm doing is I'm stopping. My brain's learnt to sing in pain. So obviously, if you can't find it and I'm about to rush, like it's a time I have to find it. I'm like about to meet you, right? So I'm in this rush. And instead of being, can't find it, this is going wrong, I'm never going to make it, I start to sing, and I've worked this out about myself.
I love
And
that.
so do I. Like I've obviously learned, because if I'm doing that there, I've noticed in the past is because I did a lot of music, just singing and dancing. As soon as I could get better, I couldn't cry. A lot of my emotion was locked up. I would play songs, and music is so instrumental, ironic, in getting me better. But
I
it's
see what you
really
did there.
interesting. Yes. And that was like Lady Gaga. I did so much healing there because when I was getting well, I couldn't cry. I would sing all this like emotional outlet into her songs, which kind of turns trauma happy. Like it's like there's darkness there, but because of the beat, I'm like singing through my trauma. So
I'm surprised she didn't bring you up on stage. Didn't she know who you were?
She
The
should have. I could have
famous
told her to.
YouTuber, Raw
That's
Vegan.
right. She should have.
That's right.
One day, right? One day.
Hey, that's how we can manifest things, right?
That's right. So, yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say?
There was something I was thinking of in that last few seconds, and then we got onto the songs, and I forgot all about it, but I'm sure it'll come to me. I'll save it for next time. What was I gonna say? There was something. Oh, I forgot now what you were saying, but I'm sure it'll come to me. But I guess, well, oh, I know what it was. I just looked at my background because I'm always saying that now. Raw vegan doesn't have to be hard, but things can be exactly how you see them. We can look at something as, this is going to be too hard for me. I'm not going to be able to do it. And usually it's because we're making a big change and our mind uses that, saying it's too hard, or I don't like certain things, or I'm not going to be able to do it. But if it's something you really want, reframe that in your mind to think, how can I make it easy? How can I make it easy on myself? Instead of how can I make it harder? Obviously, it just reminds me, like what you said about both of us do raw, but we do it differently. It's like how if you have the book club, I think, one of these
Yeah.
nights of the week, right? Like we can all have a book, and maybe I like to read late at night before I go to sleep. But if maybe Skye did that, or one of the other members of the book club, that would be really miserable to them because they like to turn everything off and go right to sleep. So they might read the book in the morning because they're like an early riser. And then there might be somebody who enjoys reading outside in the afternoon. But all of us would feel out of our comfort zone, like, oh, I can't miss work to go read. But we're all finishing the book and we all enjoyed the book, but how we do it is all different. And it's just an analogy, thinking about, this is how I do raw vegan. I like to eat fruits and salads, and Skye might like to eat certain way, like keto. And whatever it is, whatever makes us happy, we're all getting those same benefits of putting the most raw food in that makes us feel our best. And frame it to, I want to be healthy, instead of this rigid, I have to be 100%, and or I've messed up, especially in the beginning.
Sure. So I did want to, there's a question here. First off, the question about CMOS gel. So if you want to join the CMOS gel challenge, go over to Earth and Wellness. The link is there. I've put it in the comments. You can use the code Skye Conway and get 10% off, because we're doing it for 30 days. Okay, 31 days, all of January, and I'm posting daily, and my skin and hair, man, it's
looks
like
amazing.
Yeah, I ran this morning with no rollers in. Like, it was all tied back straight, pulled it out and barely brushed it. And I'm like, it's all those minerals, 92 of the 102 minerals the human body needs. And it's iodine, so it helps with the thyroid.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
anyone who wants to join, I'm doing 2 scoops a day. You can do 1 in your smoothie, but they have different flavors there on the website as well. And that brand has a code for you. But the question I really wanted to get into, because I think this is a very important, and I don't know whether I've ever spoken about this much. And only reason I know is because I have chemo is a lot of you can call it acidity or medication in a system, in a human body, right? And I don't usually have anything in my system, and not like chemo, but I do use bioidentical hormones, and I have had a broken foot and used some pain relief. And I think it's only been pain relief when I had shingles as well. And I have coached people who have medication in their system. And I do want to say is you definitely make better food choices for yourself if you've come off this, but going very high raw may not always be optimal for the person, because what you'll find is you lose a lot of protective properties when you go like very high raw into a lot of fruits and juices. So if somebody is on any medication, I never recommend as a coach to do fruit or juice. I've experienced it, others have experienced it. It can feel like you're burning alive because your body's kind of cleaning itself. When it comes to chemotherapy, and I'm not a doctor, this is just what I've learned along my journey and
I'm the
seen it in
doctor here. I'm just kidding.
and seen it in other people. Is I am doing like a denser diet right now with like a lot of fats and avocado and omega-3s and veggies and seeds, and that's definitely suitable if you feel good doing it, but you do not want to feel worse than what you're already doing, so raw food is definitely the way. But if you can start including more raw choices or whole foods, I don't know where you're at with your food journey, that's amazing. So yeah, your oncologist said to stop your bioidentical hormones. You always want to listen to your doctor. I had a hysterectomy. Sorry, there's always a backstory to this. I had a hysterectomy at 30, and I'm not even on the full package of hormones. I'm just on estrogen therapy because when I don't have it, I get joint pain, brain fog, my head kind of goes to the side, I get laxed muscles, my brain doesn't work properly. But remember, I've been very sick, and my hormone therapy is the only thing I've put back in. Sorry, I wasn't recommending hormone therapy to anybody. It's each person's decision, and you do want to speak to a health expert. Also, I feel like when you are having something like chemotherapy, if you make dietary changes, you do want to talk to your doctor about what you're doing. They don't have to sway your mind if you say, but they're going to be proud of you, I think, for doing whole foods. Whole food plant-based is a damn good place to start. And yeah, it's just that one thing I have noticed is people with any medication in their system that do very light foods. And I wanted to finish on what I feel like I have to remember from what we've learnt today on this podcast is look for the black bear. Like, don't keep the whole world's kind of directing you with media and smells and a whole lot of chemicals in food. If you missed it, I spoke of the analogy in first year psychology where all the students are told to watch this team throw the ball. Like, they've got to throw the ball, and we're all doing psych, we're all high achievers, so we're so focused on doing what we're told, like as in like watching the ball be passed. At the end, he said, how many times was it passed? Bit of an argument between the number. I'm saying it was 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it was. And then he goes, who saw the black bear? And everyone, I think except one person, went, what? 200 people, what are you talking about? What black bear? And it ended up, as I said before, when he played it back, we are so focused on this ball being passed in this game that in the middle of the game, a mascot ran out in a black outfit with a number. I think he asked what number was on the bear, and the whole game thing was black and white like the bear. He came out, not just walked past, he stopped and danced. And then as if to rub it in our faces. And I feel like many of us, I didn't until I found myself and self-love and raw food and sitting in nature. That's my black bear. And I look for that every day because the world is all of those ball passes. We've been told, look at that media, look at the movie, look at the cream, look. But what if we have a look, and then if you pick the black bear once, you keep picking the black bear?
Oh, you know what I was thinking? That the raw foods help you also, I feel like, helped me see nature like the black bear that I was missing. Like, I'm just more drawn to go outside in the sunlight. When I see the sun out there, it's almost like there's a, I guess when I was a kid, an ice cream truck or whatever you want to call it, I run out like, oh, the sun's really out, especially this time of year. We're in winter right now. So when it's really warm, it's like, I never thought about that. I never thought about going outside, especially in the winter, or going to a beach when it was cold. It's like still just all so beautiful. And you just see nature differently. You see things clearer. I feel like you just become more compassionate, both with yourself and with others too. So there's so many benefits, so many black bears around.
Yeah, I actually
hopefully not right this moment. Oh,
but that's what I feel those vibrating cells of food give us when you actually eat
packages of light. I love that.
Packages of light that are vibrating like living cells in your body. You start to see the black bear everywhere. So yes. So thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you all.
AJ.
Thanks everybody in the comments. Renata, thank you. Evelyn, thank you. Minnie, thank you. Vegan Knowledge, oh, it's me. Thank you, Homer and J&J
That's me,
Video,
thank you.
Don. And D, thank you. And Mr. Bark Up. Okay. Was it Tush? I don't know. Anyway, thank you everyone. I just
We'll
love
be
these
back
names that
next
people
week.
have on YouTube. All right,
We'll be
thanks,
back
Skye.
next
You're the
week.
best.
It'd be funny if someone in there was called Black Bear.
I know.
That would be
I'll
ironic.
like
Anyway,
change my name.
bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.